This is Dr. Jack. Dr. Jack is just 36 years old. Stick with me until the end of this short presentation and I will show you how Dr. Jack learned to turn his marketing trash into cash, and how you can too, with very little risk and incredible potential upside. Last year, Dr. Jack earned almost $500,000 in top-line income. According to the US government data, Dr. Jack is supposed to be part of the 1%. He's supposed to be one of those rich folks who supposedly lives a charmed life. Life is good, right? But let me ask you a serious question. If Dr. Jack is supposed to be one of these, then why does he actually feel a lot closer to one of these? Why? It's because a lot like a lot of small business owners, Dr. Jack is one of the biggest debt slaves of them all. Often forced to lay awake at night, struggling to imagine how he'll escape the debt and rising overhead he wasn't taught to deal with in dental school, with no relief in sight. Yep. Dr. Jack is the definition of a modern-day debt slave. You see, our economy runs on debt, so the game is set up to perpetuate it. I don't think it's an accident that costs are perpetually rising, and neither should you. And not only that, he is often dependent upon people who are in a worse position than he is, struggling to get help for services they cannot yet acquire. Stick with me for the next few minutes and I will unveil the greatest threat to your income and savings, explain how to safely and effectively grow your earnings without any significant investment, very little risk, or even effort, for that matter, on your part. But first, let me show you why Dr. Jack endlessly teeters on the verge of professional and personal failure, even though he earns more money than over 97% of the population. Often getting behind on his bills, racking up late fees, and unnecessarily juggling expenses, and never knowing for sure whether he'll be able to continue providing his community with the health services it so desperately needs. This shouldn't surprise you. According to the American Dental Organization, the average educational debt load for dental school grads in the class of 2017 was nearly $287,331. By the time the typical dentist builds up a practice like Dr. Jack's, he or she is almost certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars in debt. You see, Dr. Jack doesn't only have his dental business to worry about. In order to maintain appearances, he also has the following expenses hanging around his head like a noose: his home mortgage, multiple car payments, child care and education, an expensive monthly office lease, hefty personal and professional malpractice insurance premiums, ridiculously high advertising costs in a highly competitive market. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. The richest poor man in town. All told, Dr. Jack and those like him could have a massive debt load over $2 million. With rising expenses, even if Dr. Jack doubled his income and made a whopping $1 million this year, he would still be in debt up to his eyeballs. He is the textbook definition of the modern-day debt slave. As his customers increase, so do his costs, across the board. With no place to turn to for help, nowhere to run from the bill collectors, and with no place to hide from them, after all, he's just another rich guy. He doesn't fit the description of what our society considers a victim, in spite of the fact that he is literally a milking cow and lamb to the slaughter, wrapped into one. Like a lot of small business owners, he's being eaten alive. This is the part where I'll tell you how bad things have gotten for poor Dr. Jack. Recently, Dr. Jack was considering adding psychotherapy and antidepressants to his endless list of expenses. The $100 plus per month he spends on Viagra hoping to salvage a failing marriage just adds insult to injury. Dr. Jack is caught up in the death spiral of debt and he sees no way out. He never admitted out loud, but he's thought about causing a deadly traffic accident just so his wife and kids could collect his life insurance policy. This has actually crossed his mind. His depression is so severe, he sees absolutely no way out. Life is tough for Dr. Jack. In short, Dr. Jack feels like a loser. Although this might sound like an extreme case, my experience is everyone in your shoes has some variation of the same problem. Stick with me. Whether your situation is this extreme or not, I'm about to explain what is actually going on in your business. The small business hydra. Today's entrepreneur can learn a lot from Greek mythology. My favorite example is the hydra, an enormous two-headed, fire-breathing serpent, somewhere between a crocodile and a dragon. But as this image illustrates, the hydra would rarely just have two heads. That's because every time some would-be hero chopped off one of the hydra's heads, two more grew back in place of it. That's what running a business can be like. In our context, the hydra demonstrates deadly, poisonous problems, bankrupt your business, and entirely ruin your life. Problems which tend to pop up unexpectedly at the worst possible time. Typically right after you think you've solved them. One minute you breathe a sigh of relief, and the next you find yourself chopping off hydra heads. But each time you look back, you find that for each problem you've solved, there's another bigger, more troubling problem that has reared its ugly head. The vicious cycle continues. The circle is unbreakable. There's no escaping it unless you can find a way to become Hercules and slay the evil monster once and for all. How to kill your hydra. Hercules was a son of Zeus, the king of all gods. He was the world's strongest man, stronger than any of the gods themselves. Yet the hydra would have easily destroyed him if he didn't know its biggest secret. You see, as long as the hydra had one head, it could not be killed. By chopping off one head at a time, Hercules would only make the hydra stronger. It was only when he chopped off all of the hydra's head at once that Hercules was able to defeat the monster for good. This is what you have to do. You have to kill your hydras by slaying all of the problems that plague your business in one fell swoop. I know explaining it this way makes it sound easy, and easy sounds impossible. But Dr. Jack felt that way too. Let me show you how we helped him. But first, which head to chop? Running a business is incredibly difficult. Most humans are simply not cut out to do it, nor were they trained to do it. There's a reason business schools like HBS and Wharton cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to attend. It takes a certain kind of animal. And the cold truth is, very few humans have what it takes to be great at anything. The people who are great at something, like Dr. Jack is at dentistry, never have the time to truly become great at anything else. And the rapid evolution of globally integrated, location dispersed, technologically driven job markets have made it all but impossible for entrepreneurs like Dr. Jack to hire the elusive business manager, and most of all, marketing minds that they need in order to operate and, more importantly, grow their businesses, so that when some nasty hydra rears its ugly head, Dr. Jack and folks like him can swing their sword with confidence and weather any storm, even a Category 5 hurricane. Mercifully, I have the solution, and it's simpler than you could have imagined. Inside the serpent's den. When he continued encountering the hydra, Hercules had to cover his face because the hydra gave off a noxious odor, strong enough to kill. It disoriented the world's strongest man so badly that he barely survived. His saving grace was knowing the hydra's weakness and how to kill it. Keep this story in mind as we move ahead, because all of the problems you face in your business stink. The stench disorients you like the hydra did Hercules. It keeps you dazed, confused, and lacking focus, so you often tackle problems which do not actually matter. I realize this may be too hard for you to accept. I realize that you may turn off this presentation in anger. If you choose to make that tragic mistake, I won't hold a grudge, because I was just like you. I also had to learn the hard way that ego kills worse than any monster, real or mythological. So if you feel insulted, or if you feel you don't want to find out how Dr. Jack went from spiraling the drain of the top of the heap in just under 90 days, so be it. I thank you for your time. Goodbye and good luck. Still there? Great. I knew you had it in you. You're ready to move ahead and make both your business and your life what you always dreamed they could be. Only 2 roadblocks. It's really very simple, and it's not really your fault if you've lost sight of this. After all, you're constantly bombarded with stories about the latest CEO scheme, artificial intelligence, the blockchain, billion-dollar corporate mergers, CEO shenanigans, or whatever the hot new business story might be. But in truth, small businesses like Dr. Jack's only face 2 real problems. These 2 problems start out as small little infections that then grow into viruses that spread throughout the business in question and eventually end up either bankrupting or merely perpetuating, strangling the lives of people like Dr. Jack. Those 2 things are a lack of new customers and an inability to increase the average customer value. That's it. If you have a struggling business, these are your only 2 real obstacles. I dare you to prove me wrong. I'll put my money where my mouth is in just a second in order to prove it. But first, understand the disease, discover the cure. The 2 major roadblocks are easy to solve once you understand why they exist. When Dr. Jack realized that this is actually a healing process, he dove in headfirst with no fear. All he needed to understand was a lack of new customers is caused by disease number 1, lousy marketing. Dr. Jack went to dental school so he could fix people's teeth, not so he could run around all day trying to market his services to the public. So Dr. Jack hired a marketing agency. They convinced him that he had to spend tens of thousands of dollars each month on advertising because dentistry is such a highly competitive field. Yes, it is. Yes, he did, but sadly, no, it did not work. He tried himself and he lost even more money. Now he treats marketing as a voodoo science with no value. He's in the yellow pages, he has a website, but he doesn't know how to market. And even worse than that, his schedule is already so packed that he could only afford to see an extra 5 clients per week. This could be amazing for Dr. Jack's business, his mental state, even his family life, if marketing was free. And here's the big aha moment. Ready? It is. But first, let's talk about disease number 2, the consumer credit quagmire. How often has the following happened to Dr. Jack? Someone comes in with a cracked tooth. Dr. Jack recommends an extraction, followed by an implant. He spends an hour or so with the prospect, who is now what Dr. Jack's BS marketers always promised they could deliver: a qualified, hot lead, ready to buy a service which can run anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. But then it happens. The moment that Dr. Jack dreads more than anything, the patient's insurance rejects this crucial procedure as elective surgery, and upon applying for care credit or other financial solutions, the patient has about 4 to 5 figures with Dr. Jack. Upon applying for care credit or other finance solutions, the patient who was about to spend 4 to 5 figures with Dr. Jack gets rejected, can't afford the treatment, and goes home. All because they have been dehumanized down to a 3-digit number and deemed unworthy of a service they desperately need. It's the poor leading the poor. And I bet you already know from your own entrepreneurial experience, losing $5,000 to $25,000 really hurts the bottom line. You only need to experience a loss like this once to be crushed, both emotionally and professionally. But what about the folks like Dr. Jack? Dentists, surgeons, lawyers, accountants, car dealers, etc. Folks who leave tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in deals dying on the vine each and every month. Let's look at the facts. If Dr. Jack loses only $5,000 each week, that's a $250,000 plus loss every single year. In other words, Dr. Jack could be free and clear of all his crippling debt in just a few years, putting more cash into his pocket on the path to an early retirement, able to hire more help so he could work less hours and spend more time with his family pursuing his actual interests. Seems impossible, right? I'm here to prove to you that it's not. In fact, it's so simple, you'll be mad at yourself for not doing anything sooner. What if I could show you how to reduce the costs of your new customer acquisitions dramatically, build a steady stream of dependable, recurring monthly revenue, and kill the two-headed monster of bad marketing and lost earnings? All with one simple push of a button. Here we go. This is what you've been waiting for. Introducing my proprietary lead waste management system. I wish I could claim credit for this, but I can't. Truth be told, I'm just a regular guy who happened to be in the right place at the right time. You see, one of my best friends owned a small business, and I constantly watched him struggle. The whole horrible bit. Long hours, paycheck to paycheck living, stress over bills, missing birthdays, the whole 9 yards, and never a first down. I didn't understand fully at the time what was going on. Years later, I wound up running a sales and marketing company. I was selling marketing, VoIP, and internet services. It was a new business. We were making tons of money. Then it happened. The market crashed. Like markets often do, and like they are likely to do again in the very near future. When the business dried up, my personal life also went into shambles. My college sweetheart and the mother of my children, who was about to become my ex-wife. I was forced to open the newspaper and look for a corporate job in a down market. Good luck. I was forced to rethink my approach. I needed leads, and I needed a lot of them. You see, I, like you, thought that the only way to find leads and save my business was to build the perfect marketing campaign. I was wrong. Late one night, in the middle of a nasty business split and a legal battle that could have bankrupted me, I come home to find a note on the kitchen table. Dear Daddy, waited so we could eat dinner together. Good night. Underneath was a bologna sandwich, clearly made by a 6-year-old. I wanted to cry, but the exhaustion and stress soaked up all of my energy. I fell asleep with my face down in that note. I share this with you not to seek your pity, but because I think you may have your own version of this story, and I want you to know that you're not alone. My narrow quest to build a campaign on the perfect offer was like trying to balance a stool on one leg while catching a falling sword. I didn't yet know the secret that all of the best businesses and marketers already knew and weren't telling anyone. In my sleep, I dreamt about the Hydra and Hercules and began to reimagine the solutions available to me. Why was I attacking problems in my existing model and not rethinking my approach to the entire problem? Why you're losing the marketing game. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. What if I could monetize the leads that I thought were garbage? Imagine if someone could come up with a way to turn garbage that people were throwing away every day into a profit center. Lots of marketing gurus out there love to wax poetic about architecting the perfect sales funnel. The answer they'll tell you is that their skill set is the only thing that'll bring you to the promised land. Dr. Jack would go to marketing camps and pay supposed experts to build the perfect campaign. The day that changed the world. Sounds great, Rob, but I'm just too busy to do this myself. Is there any way you could handle it for me? It was like time froze. The question echoed inside of my head repeatedly. Yeah, sure, no problem. I managed to collect my wits and responded after a not so comfortable silence. That's when I got to work, investing all of my time, resources, money, and effort into creating the most elegant and simple solution to every business's two greatest challenges: a lack of new customers and an inability to increase average customer value. Introducing my proprietary lead waste management system, Merku.com. It took real fear, facing my own personal Hydra, to see that the solution to both my own and my clients' problems was one and the same. But the craziest thing? It was right there, staring me in the face the whole time. The simplest Hydra slaying solution ever invented. Multiple years, millions of dollars in research and development, and countless sleepless nights away from my daughter later finally yielded success. In early February 2017, my amazing tech team completed testing on a fully automated solution that can increase your conversion rates, shorten your sales cycles, added transparency into and control over what happens with your customers, without you having to spend more than a couple of minutes per month on it. That's right. In less than the amount of time you spend tying your shoelaces, you can monetize free leads instantaneously, and best of all, continue to do so on an ongoing monthly basis for months, sometimes even years on end. Just think about it. You've worked very hard to acquire each and every one of your customers, but you can very easily lose 50% or more of those hot and ready to buy people once it becomes time to verify income, creditworthiness, or when it's time to collect outstanding dues. And that is where my proprietary lead waste management system, Merku.com, comes into play, turning those turndowns into pay-ups right away. Based upon our proprietary in-house research, the likelihood of a potential buyer who is rejected for one of those reasons listed above becoming a high-ticket conversion within 3 to 6 months increases by a whopping 73.7%. Why? Because our LWM alerts direct you to re-engage the prospective high-ticket client when they are both the hottest to buy and the most financially capable of doing so. And the sale is super easy because they're clients already. But there's got to be a catch, right? I know this is all really exciting and there's lots of information involved, so I'll slow down and backtrack. I just told you that your prospective high-ticket buyer is easy to close because they are a customer already. That sounds impossible, but it's not. Here's why. Because LWM works directly with the client to make them a future client by repairing poor credit, alerting key financial metrics, and monitoring debt loads. On the flip side, it helps you to collect payments instantly, boosting your collection rate by 35%, simply billing and all but eliminating the need for collections. Best of all, your rejected client literally isn't told no. They are presented solutions for when and how. And you don't have to worry about promises and guarantees, because I will give this one to you right here in word and in writing. If any clients of yours can demonstrate that the customer inside of Lead Waste Management doesn't improve their purchasing power within 3 to 6 months, I'll refund them. You heard that correctly. I can make this guarantee with confidence because I used to spend days, weeks, and sometimes months on end on the phone with every sort of financial institution that you can and probably cannot imagine. Fighting for my clients. The exact same clients you are losing out on because they can't afford to pay their services today, no matter how badly they want or need them. You can guess what the number one question I always got from these folks was, still is. Ready? Hey Rob, who do you recommend I spend my money with? Yep, that's it. Not how did you do it? Not what's your secret? Not can you teach me how to do it myself? Nope. Because you see, the real secret is hiding in plain sight. It's that we've all been screwed at some point. The proliferation of the internet has been wonderful for humanity, but it has also created a disconnect in communication and trust. Human beings need to see results. And since business ethics have, quite frankly, gone down the toilet a good bit in recent years, something really interesting happens when you help a person. They begin to believe you can help them in all aspects of their lives. I don't know who the best dentist is. I don't know which car dealership in your town does the friendliest business. What I do know for a fact, however, is that when I help folks out with their financial situation, they instantly begin to trust me with life and with their money. Just imagine customers begging for your services, being willing and able to spend lots of money on them, becoming evangelists for your business and bringing all of their friends to you, seeing your marketing costs evaporate into nothing as frenzied buyers bang down your doors begging to make one, two, or more purchases at a time, hardly ever having to engage in selling, and when you do, the process being really simple. You knowing the person already, and all the uncomfortable stuff about building trust and rapport already having been done. Finally, you can do what you really love. Let's face it, marketing is really, really hard. Selling is just as bad, if not worse. And unless you fall in to the less than 1% of great closers out there, you are currently losing anywhere from thousands to millions of dollars each and every month because you're either spending too much money acquiring leads or not getting enough folks to spend big dollars with you. All of that changes right here, right now. No more excuses, no more exasperation, no more fear, no more anger, just results. But instead of sitting here listening to me tell you the story, let me actually show you how your entire life can change in the blink of an eye. The same way that Dr. Jack's life changed when I helped him go from the edge of a cliff to the top of a heap in less than anyone, especially Dr. Jack, thought possible, click the big orange "Do I Qualify" button below. It will take you to a secured page that looks like this.